Have you ever had a star candidate break your heart? I'm sure you probably have, and I'm going to paint you a very common picture. Let's say you have a critical opening, and you find a candidate who is a literal rock star. She's going to make you look golden to senior management. She has all the chops to blow your deliverables out of the water, and she's such a DNA match with your organization. She just might be the future of your company. Quite frankly, she's the kind of rock star that's going to make you a better leader. And best of all, she's a passive candidate. She's not actively interviewing. So when she interviewed with you, she told you that she wasn't looking at any other companies. Compensation is in line. The recruiter says she is 100% slam dunk. And she and her spouse had dinner with you and your wife, and it felt like you four knew each other for years. You four talked all night, the wine was flowing, everything is falling into place. And so you're excited when you make her an offer, and you're making her an offer for more than what she's looking for because you're feeling the love. And then what happens? You're blindsided by a turn down with really no good explanation. And then to make matters worse, a month later, you notice a LinkedIn notification to congratulate this rock star on her new job. Kind of sucks, right? This is David Stephan Patterson. I'm the SAP recruiter. And today, I want to share with you the 3 core closing techniques that you need to implement next time you're about to make an offer if you want to avoid that exact same scenario. Because what I just described to you, maybe it doesn't happen every single time, but it happens more common than most realize, especially when you don't follow these key closing steps. Now, not every time, but you don't want to roll the dice on your offer because, quite frankly, luck is not a strategy for success. Now, this scenario is a classic example of taking your eyes off the coverage just long enough for your pass to be intercepted in the end zone. You see, the offer stage is kind of like the red zone in American football. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the game, the red zone is the 20 yards closest to the goal line. And offenses are measured by how often they score either a touchdown or a field goal when they get inside the red zone. And no matter how good a team's offense is, it's their performance in the red zone that is their true test. And getting the ball across the goal line when the defense is at its strongest is what separates the Super Bowl champions from the team that everybody forgets about next season. See, you've done too much work at this point, driving the ball down the field into the red zone, or in this case, bringing the candidate through the initial assessment, the competency interview, several DNA interviews, and the reference check just to make a rookie mistake at the 1-yard line and have your pass picked off by the opposing team, or in this case, a competing company. So with that said, I'm going to teach you these 3 closing techniques to help you solve that. Now, I do want to say something about the offer stage before I get into those techniques. And it's something that most hiring executives forget. And it's that the interviewing process is emotionally charged and stressful and exciting for the candidate. But unfortunately, the majority of hiring managers seem to forget this fact. Because now, no matter how much of a rock star you may be, at our very cores, we're people. We're emotional, right? We have feelings. And it's impossible not to let our emotions, our sense of self-worth, get tied up into the interview process. You see, it starts when the candidate is flattered that your company sees so much value in her that you had a headhunter, like me, recruit them out of the blue. And then they start feeling intrigued by your organization's no-brainer employer value proposition, which, by the way, if you don't have one, get one, and we can help you with that. Now, then they pass the rigorous screening process. And when they pass that, it only cements the fact of how good they are in their heads. Because a screening process, at least a rigorous one, only makes them want you more. Because rock stars like to be tested. And they want to work with an organization that has very high standards. This is an example of a classic phenomenon in the world of seduction called push-pull. You see, you push by aggressively recruiting, and then you pull back and you hold them at arm's length while screening them. And then you push again when you bring them into your office and you start pulling out all the stops. and then you push them away again as you further screen with your test drive or your working interview. By the way, if you're not familiar with working interviews, you should be, so go watch my Bulletproof interview video. I explain all that in there. Now, what I described to you is, in essence, a back and forth seductive dance that creates a powerful attraction to your company, and that emotion just keeps ramping up the closer and closer the candidate gets to the offer stage when you finally pop the question. Seeing countless hiring managers right at the 1 yard line make the rookie mistake of ending the dance and damaging the newly formed relationship. Either you take too long to make an offer, you're not communicative, you make a lowball offer, you change the job title, or you basically just forget that the candidate is a real human being. Put yourself in their shoes. So you want to make sure that you are doing the push-pull courtship of a candidate. Don't forget, don't end that. It's important that when you are working with the candidate through the process, that you remember that they are a real human being. They don't want to be pushed around, they don't want to be played with, because you got to remember, they don't need you. They're already well compensated, right? You approach them, their job is known commodity, yours is not, okay? Very important for you to remember. Now, before we get into these closing techniques, I do want you to kind of shift your mindset a bit, because what we're looking to do really in any hiring decision is to de-risk the hire. And our rockstar candidates are looking to do the exact same thing. They're looking to de-risk the job change process. See, again, she may not need your job. Her current job is a known commodity, yours is not, no matter how good it may seem. And any change, again, even with a company with a no-brainer value proposition, is inherently risky. Will the opportunity be the same as you promised? Will you and the candidate even get along? Or, here's a big one, what kind of leader are you when you're not putting your best foot forward? Right? Will the work be satisfying? Or are there inherent problems that they're just not seeing that could derail their chances of success and could derail their career momentum? You see, all this is swirling in their heads. And a career move can have a lasting impact in their career, so it's very important that you actively work to de-risk the decision-making process for the candidate. So what does that mean? It means that, just like Alec Baldwin said in the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, great movie by the way, you must always be closing. So in order to de-risk this process, remember, use these 3 closing techniques that, if you utilize them properly, will work to de-risk the candidate's decision to move in their head and will greatly increase your odds of an offer acceptance. So with that said, let's talk about the first pillar, and that's the opportunity gap. You see, the opportunity gap is simply the growth and the stretch that the candidate will experience working for you as compared to their current situation. See, while compensation is almost certainly going to be a part of this opportunity gap, it's usually only one part of a whole ecosystem of challenge, new skills, greater responsibility, enhanced career opportunities, greater social responsibility, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? In other words, it's your employer value proposition held in contrast to their current job. The opportunity gap is what the candidate will discuss with their friends and their family, their inner circle, as their opportunity is evaluated, and even more so when an offer is made. And it's what's going to offset maybe a smaller increase in compensation, that's what's expected, or maybe if they do get a counteroffer, that opportunity gap was going to keep them from accepting the counteroffer or an offer from a competitor. So the opportunity gap, in essence, becomes the basis for the decision-making criteria that your candidate will use to justify the change in their heads. And you can't try to create the gap at the end of the process, because if you wait until an offer is extended, quite frankly, you're too late. You have to do it at the very beginning of the process. You and your recruiter should be actively creating and widening this gap. And you do so by listening, advising, asking challenging questions. And as this opportunity gap is created, a set of decision-making criteria will emerge that you'll then use to pre-close the candidate on throughout the process. Because you always want to be reminding the candidate of the gap between their current role and the opportunity they told you that they wanted and that your employer value proposition represents. And it isn't so much about selling the candidate, It's more akin to career counseling. You see, you and your recruiter should be meeting the candidate where they're at, and you want to help them create this vision of where they want to be in their career. And you want to lead them through this opportunity gap, right? And to do so, they need your insight, they need your trust, and they need your listening skills. So you have to be willing to, in essence, kind of be their career counselor, because the right opportunity will change their life. And if you want it to be your opportunity with your company working for you, then you must lead them there. Very important. And that leads me to the second closing pillar, and that is the career wound. You see, it's very difficult to create an opportunity gap without a career wound. And that's something in the candidate's current situation that they're greatly unsatisfied with. It's their thorn in the side, if you will. And it provides an initial motivation to make the job change in the first place. And just like no marriage is perfect, no employer-employee relationship is perfect either. And a passive rockstar candidate wouldn't have wandering eyes if everything was hunky-dory back at the home front. So this career wound at its very core is pain. And evolutionarily, we're all hardwired to run from pain. But oftentimes, we aren't acutely aware of the pain in our lives until it is illuminated by someone who's an expert in that area. So to that end, you should have your recruiter, or at least expect your recruiter, to have enough experience and expertise in this area to kind of act like a doctor who could diagnose the candidate's pain and help guide you in presenting your employer value proposition as the cure to that pain. Now, it's important to note that every pain causes additional frustrations and stresses that are seemingly unrelated to the problem at first glance. We call these rippling pains. Just how relationship problems can impact self-confidence, which impacts business, and then business problems impact stress levels, which impacts relationships, right? It's a cycle, right? When you can point out these chains in detail about how their job is affecting their personal life or their family life, etc., right? And tie it back into the pain of their current career wound, okay? This ripple effect is kind of like a rock tossed into a pond, because it causes ripples throughout every area of your life. And it's incredibly powerful as a closing technique to point out the truth of these ripples. Because most people simply just ignore these ripple effects because it hurts to see it. But if you and your recruiter can uncover the pain in their current situation, establish that pain's ripple effects in their pond, then you'll be able to establish what their true career wound is and how your employer value proposition will make their life better. It's very important. Now, the third pillar is the debrief, affirmation, and acceptance. You see, illuminating the career wound and establishing the opportunity gap between their current situation and your employer value proposition won't do you any good unless you constantly and actively use that information in the interview process. So it's important that throughout the process, right from the first conversation with your recruiter to the day they start, the day they put their butt in the seat, you should fully debrief the candidate after every step in the process and reaffirm their desire to make the change every single time. Ask repeatedly, even if it becomes annoying. What do they like about your opportunity? Are there any concerns? Has anything changed? Are they looking anywhere else? Because remember, just because they're only looking at your opportunity in week one doesn't mean by week two they aren't interviewing with your competitors, even if they're a passive candidate. The moment they start looking at your opportunity, they're no longer officially a passive candidate, all right? So you have to ask, because they won't tell you otherwise. So next, you affirm their opportunity gap. You affirm their career wound. Again, remind them of the pain that they're in. And then you gain acceptance on the key parts of your opportunity and offer before they move forward. And they can't commit to these key parts, try to determine why and get it resolved then, before moving the candidate to the next stage. It's very important, because this is where you handle objections early, before they fester and rear their ugly head at the offer stage. You see, candidates often make decisions without having all the information that they need to make an informed one, and that causes buyer's remorse. So it's this constant debrief, reaffirmation, and gaining acceptance every single stage that helps keep the candidates from developing that buyer's remorse. It keeps them informed, fully informed, okay? Because there's a rule in sales: people don't like to be sold, but they love to buy. If you follow this rule, again, every single stage, you create an opportunity where you don't have to sell at the end of the process, right? You give them an offer that they can't wait to accept. Put them in a position where they would love to buy your offer, but not have to be sold on it. That's what you need to do to create that momentum to get the ball across the goal line to actually land that rockstar candidate. Now, if you want to learn how to actually make the offer, from the trial close to the verbal offer to the written offer, and even handling post-offer acceptance, and how to navigate through the minefield that is counter-offers, and by the way, to learn everything you ever may need to know about hiring rockstars, then click below to download the SAP Rockstar Blueprint. This is a step-by-step guide to eliminating all mishires, building top-performing teams, and crushing all expectations. Now, quite frankly, this book is sorely needed in our industry because no one is teaching leaders how to hire effectively. And quite frankly, it's killing careers, and I want to change that. Imagine if you could be the leader who can field a top 10% team consistently, regardless of company, regardless of economic environment. If you could do that, you'll be able to write your own ticket, but it starts here. And if you need any additional help, whether you're a leader looking to finally break into the corner office yourself, or if you absolutely need a rock star on your team, if you want to accomplish what you were hired to accomplish, then you can also book a call with me directly. We'll assess what you're doing now, we'll assess what's working, what's not working, and I'll let you know if we can help. Now, even if it's not the right fit now, and it may not be, we'll at least make sure that you walk away with the right strategies that you can use today to increase your hiring success. You owe it to your organization, you owe it to your team members, and you owe it to yourself in your own career. So with that said, I look forward to chatting with you, and here is to your career success.